Ref, and as he talks to the ref, Doncic decides to go to basket, and Doncic will be called for the off.
Luka Doncic, as of right now, is playing hard in the NBA playoffs first round against the Los Angeles Clippers, in order to get to the second round for the first time ever, for him anyways. The reason this is important is that Luka has a certain history with the Clippers, in that the last time they fought in the playoffs, things got chippy. And in fact, if you look at Luka's play over the last year or so alone, you'll see that he's never afraid to go and get into fights with people or have beef with others. So given all of that, allow us to show you Luka Doncic's craziest fights and beefs. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 8. Before his time in the NBA.
Foul, talk to the ref, and as he talks to the ref, Doncic decides to go to basket, and Doncic will be called for the offensive foul. And that will be Luka Doncic's second.
Something that people forget about Luka Doncic is that he came from the European leagues of basketball. During his time there, he absolutely lit up the competition and even won the MVP at just 18 years old. That's not bad for a European player, as some skeptics would say, right? But as you might have expected, not everything was smooth while he was there. While he was on the Real Madrid team, he had an incident when he got ejected for hitting players twice, and then went on to rage against the refs. The first time was when he was trying to make a layup, and as he used his arm to get some space, he hit a player in the face so hard, unintentionally to be clear, that he was bleeding afterwards. Then, later on, Luka was given a foul for a charge call and also hitting a player while doing that act. Luka wasn't happy with the call and started to argue with the refs. It was then that he got thrown out. And then, he promptly walked back in and started arguing with the refs again, telling them to recheck the footage to show that he didn't do anything wrong. As he left, followed by armed security, Luka went and kicked the walls of a tunnel to show his frustration. So yeah, he had this hothead before he came to the NBA.
Ejected from the game, and that definitely gets the fans going here.
Number 7. His own team. Surprised? You shouldn't be. Especially since this is actually recent history. You see, the 2020 to 2021 was supposed to be the Mavericks' breakout year, because of how Luka exploded in terms of production in his first playoffs. But while Luka was going off as usual and getting triple-doubles often, the rest of his team just wasn't giving the same amount of effort. So much so that Luka repeatedly and often called out his team in a beef-like way, saying that they needed to put in more effort and have more passion because he couldn't do it all on his own. Some might say that was arrogant, but having this issue within the team actually elevated them eventually, and led to them going from 10th seed in the playoffs to making it up to the 5th seed. Something that could serve them well should they advance past the Clippers. Number 6. Luka versus the Pacers.
Turner, but a tip in by Sabonis.
This particular game happened in 2019, during Luka's first season in the NBA. He was going up against the Indianapolis Pacers, who honestly had a defensive game plan to handle Luka Doncic. So much so that he was getting more and more impatient with every single block or foul called against him. In the first half of the game, a ref had called him for reaching a foul, and he argued so profusely with the ref that he got a technical. As the game went on, he got so angry that he kicked the ball, which got him ejected. He would get revenge in his own way later on. But this was just another case of Luka's impatience getting the better of him. Number 5. Jaylen Brown.
And then Luka is hit away from the play.
During his rookie year, Luka was going up against the Boston Celtics, a very good team in that year. During a key play, Luka had managed to get a steal and dish the ball to a teammate who made a big-time dunk. It was a solid and fair play all around. But Jaylen Brown didn't like that Luka, a rookie, had done the Celtics dirty in his mind like that. As a result, while Luka was running down the court to get ready for defense, Jaylen stood in his way and knocked him to the ground with a shoulder bump. Luka was almost hurt by the bump, and by the time he got up, he was very angry, to the extent that he went and shoved Jaylen for what he did. Ironically, the ref called a technical on both players, even though Jaylen was the instigator. Not to mention the dunk that came beforehand got a technical because of how long the player was hanging on the rim. All in all, the Mavericks got screwed because the refs weren't paying attention to the right offense. But given that these two teams meet up a few times during the various seasons, Luka has plenty of time to pay them back a receipt. Number 4. Kelly Oubre.
Three-pointer.
Yeah.
A three-pointer.
Yeah.
A three-pointer.
Yeah.
LA took advantage of that down the stretch.
Oh, off one foot. Oh, yeah.
During a close fight with the Phoenix Suns in 2019, Kelly Oubre made a good play to put the Suns up by 1. With Dallas having the ball, they naturally gave it to Luka to take down the length of the court. As he did, Oubre was there, and he pounded the hardwood to let him know he was ready for whatever Luka had for him. He was very, very wrong about that. After acknowledging the challenge, Luka set up a play to which he drove hard to the left side of the basket, and he put up an off-balance shot that went in so easily you'd think he knew it would be that pretty. As he went back down the court, he smiled because he knew that he proved his worth and how good he was, and that Oubre shouldn't have ever challenged him. In short, why poke the bear when this bear can both dance and shoot? Exactly, you shouldn't.
Foul by Phoenix, which is their first of the quarter.
Number 3, Marquise Chris. In December 2019, the Mavericks were up by a lot against the Golden State Warriors. After Luka went to make a shot, he got blocked by Marquise Chris in a legit play. Luka even acknowledged the great block by smiling, but the play was still going, so the two had some time to keep going. Chris made some choice comments to Luka after rebounding the ball after a failed shot by Luka's teammate. Luka tried to knock the ball away, and a scramble of sorts was done until Chris got so fed up with Luka that he shoved him into the crowd. Not cool. Luka naturally went and called out Chris and dared him to come and try it again. The various Mavericks and Warrior benches, as well as the refs, separated the two to ensure that no further incidents were had. The cheap shot was just that, cheap. And the joke was on Chris because he got the foul and the Mavericks still won the game by a large margin. Number 2, Bradley Beal.
Fans are all fired up about it.
Double technical on both those guys right now.
Wow.
Technical foul on Bradley.
Bradley Beal is one of the best players in the NBA, and many feel if the right team is around him, he can lead the Washington Wizards or another squad deep into the playoffs, which he's trying to prove right now, in fact. But one time against the Mavericks, him and Luka Doncic were going at it all game long, to the extent that both players got technicals because of their scrappiness against one another. When Beal was eventually kicked out of the game, Luka not only clapped, but he did a fake hug for Beal that Beal rebuked before leaving the court.
Short-tempered. Fans will like that, though.
Number 1, the Clippers. Heading now to the previous NBA playoffs in the bubble, the first round matchup between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Mavericks was easily an all-time classic. Not the least of which was because of Luka's play. But in one key game, things got physical. Marcus Morris had been in Doncic's face all series, but in the first half of Game 6, Morris was ejected for a blow to the head of Doncic on a drive. That was a clear flagrant and an easy call injection for Morris. Of course, Don Rivers didn't see it that way during the between-quarter interview on ESPN.
Some extra words after the play.
I think he got ejected because he's Marcus, to be honest. I thought he made a play on the ball and his arm followed through. It happens in every game. Doncic wanted to go back at Morris, and Boban Marjanovic held him back. Doncic grew up playing the more physical European game. He can handle blows and has a streak that will stand up for himself. And the joke was on the Clippers because the Mavericks forced a Game 7 that they had to work hard to get by. And this proved that both then and now, Luka Doncic won't take crap from nobody. Which is why all eyes are on the NBA playoffs right now, because the Mavs and Clippers are dancing again right now, and it's going to get